Greetings and welcome to a presentation by the Adrian Dominican Sisters of our sister story. And today we're going to have a conversation with Sister Rita Eileen Dean, who is in residency and in mission in Santa Cruz, California. So we welcome you, Rita Eileen, after many invitations. And I'm just glad that we both have the time to sit and enjoy listening to you. So if you just would begin where you began, and even though you're in California, your beginnings were here in Illinois. So why don't you start with where you began? It's all yours.
Well, I was born to Frank and Eileen Dean on July 29th in 1940, and my father claims that it was the hottest day Chicago has ever known. That is his claim to fame as the first daughter. I'm the oldest of three children.
Okay.
I have a brother, Frank, and I have a sister, Patricia. We are South Side of Chicago family, and we started at Our Lady of Peace in Chicago. And then we moved to St. Felicitas Parish, which by chance was run by the Monroe sisters. And so many of us went to St. Felicitas that have entered the convent. And it's been a good experience. I have to say, my mom was an Aquinas graduate.
Oh.
And also in the days way before my time, and I'm sure way before yours, Peg, Aquinas had male students.
Oh, no, I never knew that. I never heard of that.
I did not know that, but I understand I had cousins who the boys went before it was a girls' school. And I was not aware of that. But anyway, so the Aquinas background goes a long way.
That's a piece of history I've not heard. Do you know when it went back to all girls?
I do not know that.
Okay,
No.
We'll have to check on that. Interesting.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to know that. I just remember hearing that these distant cousins had gone to Aquinas before my mom went. And mom graduated, I believe, in 36.
Oh my.
Aquinas. So anyway, we have been longtime Chicago people, and both my parents were only children, and my dad's parents were deceased before he and my mom ever even met. And my grandparents moved in, both of them had cancer, and these were my mom's parents, and they moved in as soon as I left for the convent.
Oh, okay.
And so she was able to nurse both of them at that time. So Patty and Frank were around in those days. My dad's parents were born in Ireland, and mom's parents were born in Chicago.
Did you ever go over to Ireland and see where he was
Only
from?
once, but it was a fluke trip. It was my dad really, he died in his 50s.
Wow.
And so he had pancreatic cancer. And so as a result, he said, oh, I'm going to die, and my girls have never been to Europe. So the parish was sponsoring a trip to Greece. And so we went on this Catholic parish trip to Greece. And so that was, Dad really wanted that dream to come true, that his girls had been to Europe.
Good.
Wasn't worried about my brother, but he was worried about the girls.
How did your brother feel about that?
He felt fine about it because he was in the seminary at one point, and they had been to Rome and they had been to different places. So anyway, that part was good. My brother and his wife, Noreen, had three children. John, the eldest, my oldest nephew, and I share a birthday, which is kind of exciting when you
Yeah.
have one of the kids land on your birthday. And then my niece, Bridget Kathleen,
Oh.
yes, you could tell we're an Irish family.
Yes.
And so she was the second child, and then Michael was the third. And they are such good kids and so well educated. And they're just heart and soul of goodness, and I'm really proud of them
And where do
and
they
what
live?
they've done.
Where do
They
they
live
live?
they live in Chicago,
Okay.
of course.
I hope they get out there and see you and you mix. Yeah. Yeah.
The then Mike is our youngest nephew, and he has one son who is still in primary grades.
Oh,
So
okay.
he and Dominique have a nice young child. And John and Jennifer, they have 3 sons. And of course, all are very active in sports. And that would be Tyler and Leo and Cole. So good kids, doing well in school. The oldest is in his first year, just finished his first year of college. And so they're moving along, and I'm proud of them all.
Oh, that's nice.
Anyway, I entered the convent after high school. We graduated in June of 58 and entered in June of 58. There's quite a few of us that Veronica Kelly and I are in the same class.
Oh, okay.
I
So
used
who tapped you on the shoulder and kind of, pushed you along or questioned?
Rosaria Bushing.
Oh, nice. Oh, great.
John Bernard,
I didn't know her.
and Dorothy Kaplan.
Okay.
Dorothy Kaplan was in my mom's class, so she kind of took an interest in me as a teacher at Aquinas.
I lived
And,
with her once.
John Bernard was she was just always there. She was
Okay.
just amazing.
Mhm.
And of course, Rosaria Bushing was a treasure in our congregation.
Yes, yes.
And we all loved her and reached out to her. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. I had the typical novitiate experiences when I entered the convent. I had the opportunity to work in Sister Patrick's kitchen.
Oh my gosh. I didn't have to. I was an office worker. Yay.
I would have preferred being an office worker, stair scrubber, but I was in the kitchen. But anyway, so that
How
all
did your
was
Rita, how did your siblings feel about you going in the convent? Your brother and
everybody was
sister?
fine. My parents were definitely churchgoers.
Yeah, yeah.
They were very involved in the parish. Dad was helping them build things always at the rectory or at the school or whatever. And Mom, it was always the church linens and all those things. And also, I don't know if you remember in those days, at least in Chicago, we had high masses every
Yes.
single day.
Oh, every day. Okay.
Every day was a high mass. And so since I played the piano at that point of my life, I learned to play the organ. And so I would go and every morning sing the mass for the priest. And
oh my word.
on some occasions I did, funerals if there was only, if they couldn't get the regular organist. But those were interesting experiences. And I don't know how they put up with me, but they did. God bless the parish. I mean, it really was a community parish. And, so many people, I have to smile when I listen to other sisters' stories.
Right.
As you hear, Betty Doherty and different people sharing. We all came from the same parish. We all went to St. Alby's. We all went, it was just good
to Aquinas. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. My first mission was Tucson. And I have to say, I was doing, I had primary grades. And I was not what one would call meant for first and second grade. It was not my forte. But the same year I was sent to Tucson, Jean O'Loughlin
Oh, my.
was sent to Tucson. So we were both there, but Jean got to teach junior high. But there were days that Jean didn't feel well, and we both had some illness. And so, we, I'd say, okay, well, Jean, I'm sorry you're sick, but I'll be sure glad to teach your 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Because those babies were really not my
a
world.
challenge.
They certainly were a challenge.
How many did you, hey, Rita, how many did you have in your classroom?
60.
Yeah, that's the era, 60, 70 kids. But
Yeah.
I always say we had the habit on, and we had parents who supported us. So
my parents were very supportive.
Yeah.
And, when I talked to my mom, I started with her and said, I think I'd like to enter. And she said, and that would be just fine.
Yeah.
Very supportive. My dad was supportive.
Yeah.
I can tell you a story, though, about my name, because we had to choose a name when I entered. And so I chose Rita Eileen. And Rita was a very dear friend, and I had taken the name Rita at confirmation. So I thought, fine, this is good. But as life turned out, I stayed in California my entire religious life. I have never been mission. People are talking about being on this hill or going to this or climbing that mountain. None of that was part of my world. I mean, California has been through and through, and it's been wonderful. But anyway, Jean would, if she wasn't going to school that day because she didn't feel well, I was right in there with taking over the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Well, who did your class?
They would bring in a substitute.
And that would be easier for the substitute.
Easier for the substitute, somebody who wanted to teach those little kids.
Oh, that was a treasure, teaching those little kids.
Well, not for me. I didn't do as well. I didn't do as well at all. But anyway, so I went from there, and then I think I've been in so many places. I just wanted to make sure that I'm sharing. St. Pascal Baylon was a wonderful place, but and I got to teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And that was fine. That was in Oakland. And I had a science lab, which was the envy of everybody who taught junior highs, to have a real science lab. But once again, I loved every minute of it, except one day I was working with one of the kids, and he had his microscope out, and we had the Bunsen burners going, and he needed some help. So I leaned over, and those were the days when we just had the front of our hair showing.
Oh, okay.
So the next thing I noticed was I smelled burning. And so I'm beating my hair because it was on fire. There was absolute silence with my 64 junior high kids.
64.
They were in absolute shock. So I ran over to the 1st grade with the hair down the white collar, and that had burned, and thought, oh, is there anything left? Well, anyway, I believe it was Adrian at that point that was teaching 1st grade. And I said, do I have any hair left? And she said, yes. I said, well, I figure out what you're going to do, because you're going to have to take my kids right now, because I have to go home. I have to see how much damage I've done. But anyway, those were the experiences, It was the shock to me, and it was the shock to the students. So anyway. And then going to school, like so many of us, I got my BA from Siena Heights University, but it wasn't really Siena. It was via Roy, New Mexico.
Yeah.
And so every summer we went to Roy, and every summer we had some education.
Right.
It was
Right.
limited, but it was a challenge. But we went to the mountains and we sang masses, and we learned to eat Mexican food. And, they learned that some of us at the table, if you asked for leche, you got, you didn't get milk.
Oh,
You
you
got
didn't?
lettuce. You got the
Oh.
bowl of lettuce because some of us didn't know any Spanish. And so anyway, those were experiences, but they were good experiences.
Mhm.
As I say, I can never, ever complain about the fact that, I did something different.
And you were
But anyhow,
principal at some place.
yes. And after
And-
that, I was assigned to be principal in 1971. And once again, now Jean O'Loughlin we're working together, but she was in leadership. So she came and she said to me, I'm going to have you become a principal. And I said, wait, I'm in junior high. I love junior high. I said, I can get those kids to do anything. And she said, I know, but you're going to be a principal. So I'll tell you what, I've got a deal for you, as only Jean could do. And Jean said, I have 3 principals I need to appoint. You're the first one, so you get to choose which school you want to be principal of. So I said, all right. So I said, I think I want to stay right here in California. So I said, I'll take Hayward. So that was great. And, I thought, okay, I'm going to be at All Saints in Hayward, and that's great. So they were great years. I have to say, when we lived at All Saints, the sisters that taught at Monroe High School also lived with us. So we had retired sisters, we had elementary school sisters, and we had high school sisters.
And were
So
they all
we were
Adrian Dominicans?
all Adrian
Okay.
Dominicans and a big crowd.
Yeah.
Now, one of the wonderful things that happened, I don't know how many people remember Sister Mary Jacquemain. She was our librarian. And she read this article that a grant was being offered of $94,000.
Oh,
And so she wrote it. And she won it. So she comes to me and she says, okay, well, now we have $94,000 to spend, and we have to do it within a month.
ah,
I said, okay. So I called the parents and asked for a special meeting for any of them that could come. I think everyone showed up because at that time, I think the parents were the same age as we were. They were kids too. They were, because they had all these young children. So anyway, the teachers, the families approved taking the day off. Okay, so that we could spend the money. Well, at the end of a full day, they had spent about $40,000. And I said, what did you do all day? You could buy anything you wanted, anything. They had globes. Everybody had a microscope. Everybody had everything. Well, anyway, we still had quite a bit of money to spend. And because Catholic schools weren't used to having that kind of money.
now tell me again, where was it coming from, this grant?
I don't know something that librarians had an opportunity to sign up for.
So the kids were able, the young people were able to purchase things for their school.
Anything they wanted.
For the school, okay.
For the school, $94,000.
Wow.
I mean, in those days, we didn't have that kind of money.
Oh, no, not
Did everything on a shoestring.
Okay.
So it was pretty exciting. Then my next ministry after that was vocation director. Now, I had been going to school and I had already gotten 2 masters, one from Holy Names University in Oakland and one from USF, a master's from USF. So that was good. And then I really thought I wanted to be a superintendent. I thought, this is really great. I love education. I love kids. I love families. Well, it came time to write the dissertation, but by then I had followed a superintendent around and I found they did a lot of paperwork. They were not out with the kids. They were not out with the families. They were running businesses. And I said to Nadine Foley, she came for a visitation. And I said, Nadine, I don't want to finish. I really appreciate the education I have because I had done most of the doctoral studies. I said, I don't want to do this. And she said, then don't.
Oh.
Which I thought was a wonderful statement. And so I didn't go on with I didn't finish the doctoral work. But I did, one of the priests came to me and said, oh, you know, you've been in this diocese so long, why don't you become a vocation director? I said, vocation director? Lordy, they're not like junior high kids. Well, in some ways they are. But anyway, I said, oh, I don't think so. And so anyway, it ended up, I did go to the diocese and I did take vocation work. But while I was working in the vocation office, I learned how to be, I worked in the marriage tribunal as the notary public. And so I thought, okay, this is really good work. It's holy work. Sometimes people thought they could not go to heaven if they had ever had a divorce, which was the saddest thing. And I can remember one day I went and I said to one of the priests, I said, oh, I've got this case. And I said, this guy's in 80 something and all he wants to do is get this cleared up before he dies. Well, the priest said, no, we're not going to do it this way. Another priest said, I heard that conversation. He said, he'll be on vacation tomorrow. Come in and we'll get him his annulment, which was really, that's what life was about. That it's a holy ministry when you're trying to help people do that. So anyway, then the bishop approached me because by then I had been in the diocese about 25 years. And so he said to me, you know, I think I'd like you to, what would you like to do? And I said, I like my work at the seminary, but I said, I really don't care for the vocation work because I had the woman that wanted to enter, but she wanted to bring her mom and her 4 dogs. And I didn't think she was just what we needed at that point.
Okay, now from the formation, I want to hear more about your going into chapter privacy and your work at the hospital and stuff. So we don't have that much time left. So just a couple other places that you've been, or the transition that you had.
Well, the transition was the seminary, and the seminary was great. I really do. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day who just had a child die. 18 years we've been friends from the seminary. Then I was elected chapter prioress, and that there were 120 sisters in the diocese. I mean, in the chapter. And I had Alaska to Utah. That was the territory. It was a wonderful experience. And the sisters seeing their gift of ministry and having that privilege of walking with them, it was just a profound opportunity for me. And I was humbled by the trust that they put in me. And then we decided at that point, leadership decided that our sisters were in Lemon Grove and we were going to close Lemon Grove. The parish wanted it back. And then they suggested that we take all those sisters, the 21 sisters that were in Lemon Grove, and bring them to Dominican Oaks.
Okay.
And Dominican Oaks is a senior center, and we were the first residents in that center because there were like 150 sisters, or 150 apartments. So that was really good. And that was where the sisters had their first experience with an earthquake. And that was right way back in, I think it was 68. And they rose to the needs of the other residents who lived there, because people were very, very frightened. They've come from the Midwest. They had never been experienced or exposed to
Mhm.
that kind of shaking where they're sitting under dining room tables, and
But that was in the 60s, but you had another earthquake later on.
oh yeah, we've
Yeah.
had earthquakes,
Yeah.
and we've had the big floods this year.
Yeah,
The flooding has
Yeah.
been terrible.
yeah.
People are still out of their homes.
So tell me, how did you make the transition to the Dominican Santa Cruz Hospital, one of our
I
beloved
was invited
ministries?
to come to the hospital after my sabbatical of almost a year. And I was vice president of mission, and that was 30 years of wonderful opportunities. My favorite part was visiting patients, encouraging them, encouraging their families,
Mhm.
helping them through crisis, sometimes teaching them to pray. It was great experiences, and I retired. I'm in my second year of retirement, and I'm serving on the hospital board and the foundation board.
Mhm.
So I keep busy with those areas.
Mhm.
And then whenever there's a special event, I join them and help out, or stuff
Mhm.
envelopes, or whatever I
Mhm.
can do to help the
Mhm.
foundation or the hospital.
To help the mission continue of everything you've been a part of, that whole sense of mission is so much a part of us.
Yes,
So
it is.
yes, and
Well,
so
they hired another mission director, not Catholic, but not a sister, but still has good values.
good.
And I
Right.
think she's doing a nice job.
Mhm.
And Sister Adrian is now the last one at the hospital.
Mhm.
That she and Mary Ellen doesn't work at the hospital, but she
Yeah.
has an office at the hospital.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where we are. So
So that's out there then is Adrian, Mary Ellen, you. There's still some other sisters out there.
there's
too.
other sisters
Yeah,
out there, but
yeah.
they're not at the hospital.
No, they're not at the
Sister
hospital.
Veronica lives at Dominican Oaks now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And there's another one of our sisters that's at Dominican Oaks.
Oh, yes, Marie Noreen Noble.
Marie Noreen, correct,
Right.
correct.
So
So
I think,
as much as you loved working at the hospital, it's always a gift, I think, when we know ourselves, that we know when it's time to step aside.
yes,
We still love it. We still love it and want to stay there, but you just have to know that and be open to that sign that comes from within each person and not
yes,
hang
it
on.
does.
Yeah. So
It does, and it's a good thing, because
yes,
you're still
yes,
got your finger in it. You're
yes,
still supporting them. You're still
Yeah.
going to events, but
yeah. Is there a lesson that you've learned through all these years out in California that
Yeah.
that was very important, profound for you, impressionistic, that you'd share with us, something you learned maybe about yourself through that process? Besides not, you knew that you can't teach those little kids. And I think those little kids are happy that you didn't teach them.
Well, so, when I was principal, one of Sister Mary Robot was teaching first grade, and she gave all the kids a piece of chocolate one day. Well, one of the kids was so excited with the chocolate, it was all over his lips, and he ran up and he put his arms around her right at hip level and kissed her. And she had chocolate lips on her hip of her white habit for the entire day.
Isn't that cute? That is precious. That is precious. That's a cute little story. But what about you? What's a big lesson? What can we learn from you?
Well, I learned that I have to stop and always listen and never be in a hurry to move anybody on. Just stop and glow with the flow and share who you are and listen to who they are. It's just really important just to take time. I think that's it. And I always love the scripture of Micah: act justly, love tenderly, and walk humbly with your God. And I think if we can do that, that is what it's about.
But the other side, sometimes we need a nudge. We want to be respectful and patient. But sometimes we need a nudge from someone that's brave enough to say, I can't teach those little kids. You know, not just that, but in life, we need a nudge.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's painful for someone to say, you know, did you ever da 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 da? I'd rather say, I'm going to do such and such. Yeah. Any nudge. Who perhaps is someone or a situation that perhaps was a nudge for you that you needed to just look at yourself and go in a different direction?
Well, if you're referring to
Anything. Even to step aside from the hospital work.
Well, that I just knew that was time.
Okay.
It was time because the computers have gotten to be ahead of me.
Oh God.
I didn't get ahead of them. They've gotten ahead of me, and I had to say, no, I'm not bringing full gift to the hospital.
Oh, good. It's
I
just
knew it was time.
It's way beyond my, I don't know, but there are just some things that I just can't go on, and I don't want to go on if I can't do it
and do it well.
And do it well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. Yeah. I couldn't do it well any longer.
What are you most passionate about at this time of your life?
I am thrilled to have the time to just be, to pray.
Good.
I mean, that is such a gift. You know, when you get up at 5 a.m. and you go to work, because I did at the hospital.
I know you did.
Because I would want to make the rounds or sit with the person that died during the night until, you know, the morticians were able to come, or the security at the hospital was, you know, those are the things. You don't have that quiet time. That's time
right.
So much. Mm-hmm. And now I do. There is no reason that I just don't have time to stop and pray and be. And also, the thing I love doing too is just every now and then, out of the blue, calling one of our volunteers that's aged in place.
Wonderful.
Or just, you know, let them know that they're still very important and haven't been forgotten.
The whole sense, excuse me, of mission continues.
Yes.
Just continues, period.
Yes, it does.
We have to close right now. It's only 30 minutes to go through our whole life. Is there anything that perhaps you would hope I would ask you and I didn't, or a suggestion, you know, not that I could start over again now to invite you to do part 2, and maybe in 5 years we'd be able to do it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, but anything that you wanted to say to us as you conclude at least this part of your story?
Well, I feel very strongly about some of the situations that are going on in the world today.
Oh, yeah.
Like I really want to be supportive of people who are trying to change things about guns, because I think about the losses of children, of babies, it's insanity. It's just plain insanity. And if I can support people or sign a petition or whatever it is to put some values back into our lives, you know, it really concerns me, I think.
It's hard to continue. So thank you so much, Rita Eileen.
You're welcome.
Hey, we didn't talk about Sharon Marie. What did you say about your name?
Oh,
you were going to tell us that.
Yes. You know, I was baptized Sharon Marie. Okay. And so I went to my dad because I had been Sharon Marie I had been Rita Eileen for so many years. I mean, over 60 years. So I said to my dad, what do you think about my changing my name legally? And he said, I chose the name Sharon Marie because it's an Irish name. And he said, I'm going to ask you, use Rita Eileen until you die if you so wish. But he said, I'm going to ask you not to change the name permanently that I gave you.
Very good.
So
Very
he
good.
just He was supportive. My
Mhm.
dad was always supportive, but don't change your name. No, I picked it out.
Okay, okay. So anyway, thank you, Rita Eileen, so much for all that you have done and all the various missions. You certainly have carried out the mission of Jesus and continue to do so in your welcoming, hospitable way. And just the fun times when you brought your colleagues onto campus during the sponsorship meetings. You just were a delight. So again, I thank you for your presence among us, and stay there as long as you can, because I know you'll know when it's time to move again.
Yes, and
And
it will be time because
yeah,
I do miss Adrian.